So what I would like to know is whether or not I will be able to pay my bills well into the future. And I want to be able to take into consideration things like my current expenses, my current income and investments, as well as future expenses, income, and investments. And I'd like to be able to account for things like investment growth, income growth or decline, inflation, and taxes. And I would like to be able to project years or decades into the future. In this video, I will demonstrate a simple retirement financial scenario, and I will show you how you can make your own future financial calculations based on your own financial situation. So let's suppose I'm 65 years old and I've had a great career working for a company for the last 40 years. So I've diligently saved money in my company 401k and now have about $700,000 saved. My house is paid off. I'll have about $3,000 a month in income in retirement, and I've calculated my yearly cost of living to be about $60,000 a year. So I want to estimate how much money I can spend if I live to be a healthy 90 years old, and then whatever happens after that I'm not too concerned about. To demonstrate this scenario, I'm going to use an iOS app called Retirement Estimator. If you have an iPhone, iPad, or an iPod that supports iOS 12 or greater, you can download the Retirement Estimator app for free from the Apple App Store and follow along with this video. I'm using an iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard connected. You don't need a Bluetooth keyboard, but my typing on an iOS device keypad is slow. The app icon has the green background with the gold $sign. I will start the app. The initial tab is the Money tab. The Money tab is where I can enter income, investments, expenses, and transfer. So this is the tab where I'll put all my finance information. By the way, you can change the background color by swiping left or right on the background on this page. And if you want to customize the color, you can hold down, press and hold until the color wheel pops up and the brightness. And so you can change that to whatever you like. I'm going to switch it back to my color. Okay, I'm going to add income, so I'm going to press income and then add income, and the income name is going to be retirement monthly income. The payment I'm going to use is $3,000 and every 1 month, so I'm going to put 1, and the spinner I'm going to use month. You can enter days, weeks, months, quarters, years. So this is 1 month. And I expect my percentage increase to be about 2% every 1 year. I can enter a fixed increase, but I'm not going to here. So you can do either percentage or fixed or both. And I'm going to estimate that my tax bracket is going to be about 30% for my income. I could enter a begin date and an end date, but if I wanted the income to start and end at some point in the future, but for now I'm going to ignore the entries. The income will begin and end according to the graph or report dates I choose later. Okay, press save, and I'll go back to the money page. And next I will enter my investment. So touch investment, add investment, and my investment name will be 401k. My starting investment amount will be $700,000, and the percentage investment increase will be 7% every 1 year. The average annual return for long-term stock market returns is commonly estimated to be 7%. And returns can be negative in a year or multiple times 7% in a year. You never know what the future holds, but I'm going to use the 7% suggested by multiple dependable sources for my 401k returns. Okay, so I don't have a fixed increase for this, so I'm going to ignore that. My 401k grows tax-free, so I'm not entering a tax on my investment increase. And I'm going to ignore the begin date and end date here. The investment will be calculated according to the begin and end date I choose later in the graph report. Okay, press save. and back to the money page. Now I will enter the expense, so touch expenses and add expense. And my expense name will be yearly costs. My cost will be $60,000 every 1 year. My percentage increase will be 3% every 1 year. And so this is to account for inflation. The average inflation rate in the US since 1918 is about 3% per year. It could be smaller or it could be much higher than that. So once again, I'll use a historical average here. I don't have an expense fixed increase, so I will ignore that. And I am going to enter a begin date here. The begin date will be the first date the expense is due, and I won't have to pay the yearly expense until a year has passed. So I'll put it 1 year into the future. And press save. And back to the money page. Now I'm going to enter transfers between my income, investment, and expense. So press transfers, press add transfer. And before I enter a transfer name, I'm going to select the from and to. So press the from field, and that'll bring up the from page where you can make a selection for your from. I'm going to press retirement monthly income here. And then for the to, press to, and then I'm going to select yearly costs under expenses. And my transfer name is going to be from retirement monthly income to yearly costs. And you can set transfer priorities, but since this is my only transfer, I don't need to do that. And the transfer type can be percentage or fixed, but it can't be both. So in this case, I'm going to use a percentage transfer. And I'm going to say use 100%. I want to use all of my monthly income and apply that towards my yearly expense. And for a transfer tax, I've already paid tax on my income, so there's no transfer tax here. And for the begin and end date, I'm going to ignore that and use what I use for the graph or the report. So press save. Press add transfer again. And for the from, press the from field. I'm going to press 401k. And on the to, I'm going to press yearly costs. And my name will be from 401k to yearly costs. And now I can set my transfer priority. I want to make sure that I'm paying from my income before I'm paying for my 401k. So yeah, so it's set to so that it's being paid from income first and then 401k second. If I wanted to rearrange that, I could just drag it up and down. So press done. And I want to apply 100% of my 401k to the yearly cost now. So whatever is not covered by income will then be covered by 401k. And this isn't a fixed transfer, so I'm ignoring that. Now I do have a transfer tax when I transfer from 401k to pay for expense, and I'm estimating that my tax will be 30%. And I can add that tax to the transfer amount, or I could subtract that tax from the transfer amount since I'm applying 100% here of 401k to the expense. It doesn't matter if it was either way, so I'm just going to leave it as add to. For the begin date and the end date, I'll leave those as they are and use the begin and end date that I get from the report. So press save, and I'll go back to the money page again. So now that I've entered my income, investments, expenses, and transfers, I can estimate and project that into the future. So to do that, I click the estimator with the little calculator next to it, and then I click Add Estimator Configuration. And my estimator configuration name is going to be Retirement Outlook. My begin date will be now, and my end date will be when I turn 90. And the report can be by day, week, month, quarter, or year. I'm just going to choose year here. And I can set report or graphing options for each one of my income, investments, expenses, and transfers. So I'll press that. So I can change the color. I'll change my expense color to be red. And I could turn on or off output for any one of these. If I turn output off, that means it'll get calculated, but it won't be output. Like in this case, it won't be output to the report or the graph. For a transfer, transfers are not output to the graph, but they are printed out in the report. So if I turn it off, it won't be output in the report. If I turn off enable, then that means that item won't be calculated and it won't be output. So I can do any combination here that I want to. So I'll click Done, and I'm going to click Save. So now that I've saved that, now I'll go to View Graph. So now I can see how these project into the future. The left side of the graph are dollar amounts, and the bottom side or x-axis does not have any labels. The points on the graph are ordered by time in ascending order. So each dot on a line is a year greater than the previous dot, since I chose yearly for the graph. If I chose daily for the graph, then each dot on the line would be 1 day ahead of the previous dot. The green line is my investment, the red line is my expense, and the blue line is my monthly income. I can press a dot to see details about the dot. So for my investment, I'll press it, and it tells me in 2023, my investment's worth $688,884.34. If I press an income item, I can see that, my income payment in 2025 is $3,378.49. And for every 1 month that I get a payment, and it shows me my total earned income is $230,470.84, and total earned income after my transfers and taxes is 0, which means I've been applying all of this to my expense. And for an expense, you can touch a dot. So in 2027, my expense cost is $73,792.43 every year. And you see the total accumulated expense there, and then you see total accumulated expense after transfers, which is 0, which means that my expense has completely been paid. But you can see that, around 84 years old or so, that my 401k runs out. And so it doesn't last all the way to 90. All right, so now we'll want to play around with some numbers to see if we can adjust that. So I'll go back to back to here. I'll press the Money tab so I can make some adjustments. So now what I would like to do is see if I can make my investment last until I'm 90 years old. So what I'll do is I will change my expense from $60,000 to $50,000, and I'll save it. Now I'll go look at the graph again, and oh, so now my 401k lasts longer than 90 years old, but what if I wanted to make some more conservative estimates about investment growth and inflation? So I'll go back to the money and I'll change my investment growth from 7% to 6%, and I'll change the growth rate of my expenses from 3 to 4%, so 4% inflation here. And then I'll go back to the graph and see where I'm at now. Okay, so I'm a few years short, but these boundaries are good enough for me. I'll figure something out later on down the road. Now what I'd like to see is the percentage of my 401k I should draw in a year according to this estimate. And to do that, I'll want to view a CSV report. To view a CSV report requires an in-app purchase. And I'll press Generate View Reports here, and then I get the prompt. Would you like to generate a CSV report? Purchase CSV reports and view estimate results. I'll go Open Store. And when I open the store, these are the things that I can purchase, do in the app. The one I want is See More with CSV reports, so I'll touch that. And I'll push Purchase. And I need to enter my password, which I'll do now. Press Buy. And I've already purchased this before, so instead of actually purchasing it, it's going to do a restore. So I'll click OK. And I'm all set. I'm going to go back to the Edit Estimator configuration where I can generate the report. And here I will press Generate View Reports. And then Generate Report. And I'm going to leave the name the same. Press Generate. Okay, the report generated. I'll press View Reports to go look at the report. And here you'll see the reports. So I'm going to press it and it's going to give me a list of options that I can choose to look at the CSV report or send it somewhere. And I've installed Numbers, which is Apple's spreadsheet application, so I'm going to use that. So I'll press Numbers and it's copied over to Numbers. The report first lists the transfers in the order of transfer priority. The report then lists the income in alphabetical order, followed by investments, followed by expenses. Transfer information includes transfer dates and amounts and the percentage amounts of the source of the transfer. So you can see that the first transfer is from retirement monthly income to yearly costs, which was at the top of the priority list. And then you'll see a list of the transfer dates here and the transfer amount. And then you'll see the percentage of income payment. 30% of the income payment was taken out for taxes. And so at the time this transfer was made, it was $27,342, and that was 70% of the combined income payments to the transfer date. So if I want to see how much to withdraw for my first 401k withdrawal, I can look at the transfer name for From 401k to Yearly Costs, and I'll look at the transfer date. I see transfer date, and the transfer dates are all to the right here. So the transfer date is 2/14/2020. The tax transfer amount from the investment is $32,368.57, and the transfer amount that is applied towards the yearly expense is $22,658 after paying 30% tax. And the $32,368.57 represents 4.36% of the investment amount at the time this transfer was calculated. And then you see the income. So here's the income name and then the income report date. The report dates will be according to the schedule that we selected in the estimator configuration, which was yearly. So you'll see 2014, 2019, 2020, 2021. If you picked daily, you would see this every 214, 215, 216, 217, every day. And here's the investment for the 401k. And then you see the investments amounts for each year, according, whatever they're calculated out to be for those years. It goes out just to show you to the end of the report, 2044. And you see the expense report date, the expense amount, total accumulated expense after payments. And if I'm paying all my bills, then the total accumulated expense after payments would be 0. So this gives a good idea of the type of information that can be seen in the report. I'm going to exit the numbers spreadsheet app and go back to the retirement estimator now. And if you want to delete the report, you can swipe left on it, get to delete, press delete, and I'll go back to the estimator configuration. So I've covered how to enter income, investments, expenses, transfers, and estimator configurations, and I demonstrated line graphs and CSV reports. That's most of what you need to know to enter and estimate for your own personal finances. I'll cover a few more things in the Settings tab now. So go to Settings, press the Settings. You can enable authentication in case you want to enter a password or use Touch ID or Face ID. So I'll go to Press Authentication. I'll press Enable Password, and here I'll enter a password. Passwords have to match. And done. Okay, my password, I'm going to enable Touch ID. And so now that I've enabled a password, I can, when I try to enter the app, I have to authenticate in order to open it. Okay, I'll go back to settings. So if you forget the password that you enter, then there's no recovery option, so you would have to delete the app and reinstall it again to use it. And when you delete the app, you'll lose all your data. To avoid this problem, you can export your data frequently and transfer it somewhere else, which I'll show how to do next. All right, so the next thing I can do is I can import and export data. To do that requires an in-app purchase. And so I'm going to open the store and I'm going to go make that purchase. So import, export data, I'll touch that. And I'll click purchase. And I have to enter my password. Click buy. And I've already purchased this before, so it's going to do a restore instead of going through with another purchase again. So click OK. All right. So now that I have that, I can go back to settings and import, export data. So I will export my data and call it Retirement Outlook. So this is going to save it in a DAT file so that it can be re-imported later. So if I want to look at import data, I'll see my exported data here, and you can export multiple times, if multiple data sets if you want. And I'll save that, and now when I go, so you'll see all the exported data that you have here. And if I want to delete one, I can swipe left and delete it. So going back to settings, I can delete all of the data in the app. So a lot of times you may be working with data and you want to delete it all and start over, or import a different set of data and start working with that. So I will do delete all data. It tells me everything will be deleted, so I delete it. Now there's no income, investments, expenses, or transfers, so I'll go back and I'll import the data that I just deleted. So I'll click yes, and that's going to delete anything that was in the app. And when I go back, my data is there again. There's another way you can look at the Retirement Estimator app files by using the iOS Files app. I'll show you how to do that. So close the Retirement Estimator app and open the Files app. The Files app has the icon with the blue folder in it. And here you'll see different folders for different applications. And so there's one there for Retirement Estimator. First, you may need to press Locations to the left and then choose on my iPad or iPhone or iPod. And I'll open the Retirement Estimator app, and then this is where the CSV files and the .dat files will be located. And here you can press it and you could mail it or do other, transfer it other ways. The DAT file can be opened on any other iOS device with the Retirement Estimator app. If you want your CSV files and DAT files to be secure, then you need to make sure your iOS device is secure. And then you want to make sure how you transfer the files from your iOS device is secure. And you want to ensure that wherever you store the files, that's secure too. The files are marked so they won't be backed up to iCloud. If you forget your password, for example, you won't be able to recover by restoring from iCloud. So to do a backup of your data, you would want to export your data and then move the .dat files from this folder to some other location. It could be on another computer or mail it to yourself or whatever. Okay, I'll demonstrate how to move the files off of your iOS device and onto your computer next using iTunes. To demonstrate how to move files on and off of your iOS device, I have iTunes opened up. And so when you plug in your iOS device, you'll see a little icon here next to music. So you'll click that little icon. And then you'll see file sharing, so click that. And here you see the Retirement Estimator app folder. I'll click that and then you'll see the files in that folder. And so I will just drag those files off. In this case, I'm just going to drag it to my desktop. And then you'll see that file on your desktop. And so it's that easy. And if you want to put a file back, you just drag it back into the folder. That's it for this demo video, and enjoy estimating your future finances.